Shalom. So today we're going to look at circumcision, right? This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 12 and verse 3. And this is the law on childbirth. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. Now, we're going to go back to Genesis chapter 17, right? Because this didn't start with Moses. We're going to read from verse 9. It says, "And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations." So not only Abraham, but if you're of Abraham's seed, meaning Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. "This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised." So it's just like the Sabbath is a covenant between the Most High and his people. The law of circumcision is the same. It says, "And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you." It says, "And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations. He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed." Right? So it's just the same what we just read in Leviticus. "He that is born in thy house and he that is bought with thy money must needs be circumcised." Needs be. It's a covenant. It's not optional. "Must needs be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant." In your flesh. So every time you look upon that flesh, you remember the covenant with the Most High. Right? "And the uncircumcised man child whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant." So if that is not done, it's symbolic to a broken covenant, right? So what we're seeing here is that the law of circumcision, the law of childbirth, should be kept until this day, right? Now the question is, what if you already had children prior to coming into this truth, right? So what do you do in that case? Let us go to Genesis chapter 17 and verse 24. It says, "And Abraham was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin." No, like for example, my son is 8 years old, right? I had him before, I got my son before I came into this truth. So what should I do in this case? Yes, I still need to take my son and myself, and we both need to get the foreskin circumcised, right? So if you have not yet done this, it should still be in your intention, right? And when it is in your power to do so, you should go ahead and do it, right? No, we're not going to make the law a burden, right? But as soon as you can do it, it's something that should be done, right? And we're going to see something particular about the feast of the Most High regarding this, right? And this what it is synonymous with something else that we will see also. Now, verse 22 says, "And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham." So this is going to immediately after hearing it, right? And this is what it means when it talks about the faith of Abraham, right? Like you're watching this video now, you're hearing this about this law, guess what? You moving right away immediately to go and do that circumcision. That is the faith of Abraham. You don't procrastinate. You don't wait until whenever you feel like you hear it, it needs to be done. You do it right away, right? It says, and he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the same day as God had said unto him. So that is what faith. You hear it, you do it immediately. No procrastination, no making excuses, no nothing. Just doing, just action. The knowledge is now what? Practical. It's not just talking about, oh yeah, the law of circumcision, but not doing it. No. It has to be in your intention to do it, and you do it as soon as you can do it. Right? Again, not making it a burden. Right? As if, oh, if you don't do this, you won't be saved. You know, like these people in, let's go to the book of Acts chapter 15, verse 1. It says, and certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved. No, we're not teaching that the law of circumcision is about salvation, right? But we are teaching that it is a law, it's a covenant, and it needs to be kept, right? It doesn't matter what age you are. Even if your son is past 8 days old, you still can do it. We saw that Ishmael was 13 when it was done, right? But Isaac, after Abraham got the knowledge, he kept that command. 8 days old, Isaac got the circumcision according to the law of childbirth. So you're in the truth now, and you're having children. Guess what? You still need to do that 8 days after, right? So it says, in the self same day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house, born in the house and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. No, the Most High knew that Abraham would do what? Command his house. All the men that followed him, he knew that Abraham was that leader that would have them doing the work of the Most High, the will of the Most High. Right? So it's the same as church leaders, pastors, whatever you call yourself, camps, right? All your followers should do what? The same thing. So if you have these people following you, you shall take them and have all of the males circumcised, regardless of what their age is, unless they're not yet 8 years old. But everything after that should be circumcised. And we're going to see something specific about the 10th day of the first month, right? So dealing with Abraham and his house, this is Genesis chapter 18 and verse 19. It says, for I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. So the Most High knew this about Abraham, that he would command his house. Now the thing is, leaders, teachers, pastors, whatever titles you may hold, can you command your house, not just your home, right? But your spiritual house also, your temple, whatever you have, your camps. Can you command all the males in there to do that circumcision? Do you have that faith of Abraham? As it says, For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment. Can you? So you should not have a congregation filled with men who are not circumcised, children who are not circumcised. And babies that are born into your congregation, guess what? As soon as they reach 8 years old, 8 days old, you should circumcise them after the law of childbirth. Now we're going to go to the book of Exodus, chapter 12. And we're going to read verse 48. It says, all right, let's start at verse 43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof, but every man's servant that is bought for money, same as what he told Abraham. When thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall he break a bone thereof. Again, what is this? What is this synonymous to? No bone shall be broken. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. So guess what? For the congregations keeping the Passover, say next year you're going to keep the Passover. Before you keep the Passover, guess what you need to do? The law of circumcision. And this is why the 10th day of the first month is very important. Let's jump up to verse 2. It says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. So what is this synonymous to? What is the lamb synonymous to? Let's go to the book of John, chapter 1 and verse 27. Verse 29, it says, the next day John seeth Jesus coming unto him, and saith, behold, the Lamb of God which take away the sins of the world. Right? Take away the sin of the world. Back to the book of Exodus, chapter 12. So we're seeing here that on the 10th day, this is when the lamb is being selected, right? The lamb is being selected on the 10th day. Now let us go to the book of Joshua, chapter 5. We're going to start at verse 2. It says, at that time the Lord said unto Joshua, make these sharp knives and circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. Right? No. It says take sharp knives. So back then this would be the job of the elders, like the priests and so forth. And a lot of you might have seen this custom back in the 70s, probably part of the 80s and so forth, being done in the homes, right? I did not see it, but it was going on in some places, right? Depending on where you live, right? It says, and Joshua made him sharp knives and circumcised the children of Israel at the hill of the foreskins. And this is the cause why Joshua did circumcise all the people that came out of Egypt that were males, even all the men of war, died in the wilderness by the way, after they came out of Egypt. Now all the people that came out were circumcised. So guess what? They were keeping these customs in Egypt because they left Egypt being circumcised. So they had this law all along in Egypt, right? It says, but all the people that were born in the wilderness by the way as they came forth out of Egypt, them they had not circumcised. So while they were traveling 40 years in the wilderness after the destruction of Egypt, guess what? Those children were not circumcised, the ones that were born in that journey, right? It says, for the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the people that were men of war which came out of Egypt were consumed because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord. So again, it's showing you keeping the law is one thing, but the righteousness and the obedience is another thing. But doing the righteousness does not stop you from keeping the law, right? Both is necessary. So these people, they were keeping these laws, but their hearts were still hardened, right? There was no circumcision of the heart. However, if your heart is circumcised, your flesh still needs to be circumcised because it is still a law in itself. It is still a covenant between the Most High and his people, his sons, right? It says, because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord, unto whom the Lord sware that he would not show them the land which the Lord sware unto their fathers that he would give us, a land that floweth with milk and honey. And their children whom he raised up in their stead, them Joshua circumcised. So the ones that came after, so you had some that died in the wilderness, the ones that came after the children, right? It says, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not circumcised them by the way. So while they were going through 40 years in the wilderness, those children that were born, they were not circumcised. And it came to pass when they had done circumcising all the people, that they abode in their places in the camp till they were whole. Right? No. This, when the priest does a circumcision, that is usually done on the Sabbath day, on the 8th day, right? So when you go to the priest on the Sabbath and you get this foreskin removed, you are not healed as yet. It needs time to heal, right? So the priests, they were doing this work on the Sabbath, right? However, what they were missing is the mercy, the grace, and that spirit of compassion. So you're keeping the laws, but you don't have that spirit of grace, mercy, and compassion. You are still missing the mark. Because you can keep the laws all you want, but if your heart is not circumcised, if you do not exercise compassion, if you do not exercise mercy, if you do not exercise grace, then your keeping of the law does not make much. You are still like those of the uncircumcision. Let us go to the book of John. We're going to come back here. Let us go to the book of John, chapter 7. And verse 22. It says, and Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers, and ye on the Sabbath day circumcise a man. So the priests, you circumcise men on the Sabbath day, right? It says, if a man on the Sabbath day receives circumcision, that the law of Moses should not be broken, are ye angry at me because I have made a man every week whole on the Sabbath day? Right? So this was the problem. You can be keeping the law, but you're still missing the mark of grace and mercy. So if you can do this on the Sabbath day, why cannot you do a good deed? Why cannot mercy be shown on the Sabbath day? Right? And this is why a lot of people who are in the Old Testament only, they have, this is the veil that they cannot see the righteousness, they cannot see the mercy, they cannot see the compassion, they cannot see the love, things done out of love. There's that veil in there. Because keeping the law, doing the laws do not make you perfect. They don't convert your soul. You can be keeping the laws, but you are still hard-hearted. You can be keeping the law, but you still cannot obey the voice of the Most High. You can be keeping the law, but you still do not know how to treat a brother or a sister. You can be keeping the law and do not know how to give alms. You do not know how to help another person. So the weightier part of the matter is the morality, the moral law, the civil law. If you don't have those, then how can your soul be converted? Circumcising your flesh, wearing fringes, wearing beard, whatever, head wraps, dresses, mitre. These things do not circumcise your heart. They do not make pure your intentions. They do not remove the reproach of Egypt. And this is what we're going to see as we read down in the book of Joshua, chapter 5. It says, "And the Lord said unto Joshua, This day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off you, wherefore the name of this place is called Gilgal unto this day." So guess what? Let us see what day this is. Let us go to the book of Joshua chapter 4 and verse 19. It says, "And the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month." What happens on the 10th day of the first month? Again, that's when you go and select your lamb to be sacrificed. That was the day the Messiah went to Jerusalem riding on an ass. So all of this ties in back to the Messiah. And these are the mysteries that are in the scriptures. There is a veil between our eyes and what we are reading. It is not revealed unto everyone. So just as it says, let me read it once again. It says, "And the Lord said unto Joshua, This day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off you, wherefore the name of the place is called Gilgal unto this day." So he removed the reproach of Egypt from off the children of Israel. So there's a distinction between the uncircumcision and the circumcision, right? Let us go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And verse 52. "In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying what was written, death is swallowed up in victory." That is in the book of Isaiah. Right? So this is the point of this circumcision, what it is synonymous to. That is the conversion. It's synonymous to the conversion. Let us go to the book of Colossians chapter 2. and we're going to start at verse 11. It says, in whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. So that was what he meant when he said he removed the reproach of Egypt. Buried with him in baptism, wherein also ye are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who hath raised him from the dead. And you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. So that's what he meant when he said he removed the reproach of Egypt. So circumcision is synonymous with the removal of the reproach of Egypt, right? Of our sins. And this is how you become a new creature in the Messiah. So keeping the law is one thing, but then there's a change that needs to take place. As he says, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. Shalom.